this conference has been an eye-opener.
The way that it's been set up, everyone has been able to speak, which I think has been great.
The information together for our website, writing our reviews, our opinion pieces, and then we actually launched our...
My name, Lemen, in Amharic, it means the question why. Why? How could I not be a poet with a name like Why?
For the first time, a venue was created at which publishers and writers have interacted and looked not only at the past, because writing normally seems to direct thoughts to the past, but also of the present and the future.
What is the place of the traditional mainstream publishing in these contemporary publishing trends in Africa?
The traditional publisher is still needed.
Right? So I think we need to think about the relationship between the textual form and the oral and the performance. Poetry is one of the few places where, as Africans, we can really return to voice.
And the reason why I'm into publishing is because I'm interested in the archive. Not archive as a relic of the past, but archive as an opportunity to create something for the future.
During the session around DIY publishing narratives, we're talking about some of the reasons that influenced our decisions to go ahead and, sort of take up the mantle and try to find solutions for publishing concerns. We don't have a lot of avenues for writers to get their work out there.
This is really exciting because this is kind of looking at grassroots level initiatives, individual-led initiatives, and how they relate to the bigger picture, the wider umbrella of, publishing, engagement, and kind of distribution as well. And something that really came up quite a lot was the power of social media. I know a lot of people kind of get a bit freaked out and a bit unnerved by it, but definitely it came through that a lot of people are using it, and it is a really great way to get the word out there and to get people excited. I know in my own kind of experience, social media has been key, certainly in the UK, with finding new audiences, spreading the word, and just getting our word out there as well.
It is my first time to come to the Uganda International Women Writers Conference, and it's very important to have this conference because women's voices for long have not been given a platform to flourish.
It's been a privilege being at this third Uganda International Writers Conference. I think what I've found amazing about it is the way it has brought together both scholars and practitioners in the field, in the same industry. So we've been able to look at the research by the academicians and look at what the practitioners are saying is actually on ground and come up with real practical solutions that we can employ in our industry. And everything that I've learned at this conference really has given me the confidence to do what I can to advance Uganda's publishing industry.
One of the things I like about the conference is it's a writers' conference, and it has included all the different forms of writing you can think about. So it's not just books, poetry, but also the performance. It's a conference that's returned us to the performative element of writing, that we need to think about writing both in terms of textual, but also as performative.
So the conference so far has been great. I've really enjoyed all the conversations. I'm really actually pleased and excited by how often language has come into the discussion. Often language isn't even mentioned, it's just taken for granted that everyone means English. And I find this sometimes a bit problematic, but it's wonderful how often it's come up in conversation and how people have really tried to interrogate language. If anything, I think there should be more discussion of language, but actual practical realities of what can be done in languages, not kind of just pontificating on, oh, it should be this, or oh, it should be this, but actually real talk about like literacy and how that relates to literature.
I really enjoyed listening to Bibi, Bibi Bakari Yusuf, who has been in this business for a long time. She's done it for about 10 years with Cassava Republic. Who's the Press is only 2 years now. So it's always important to learn from those who have actually been on the journey much longer than you have. You know, I was concerned, you know, is this going to work? But Bibi just showed us that actually this is something that can work. And then she also drove the point home about, you know, creating this archive. As publishers, we don't think that we're actually creating an archive. We just think we're creating, you know, lots of work, putting it out there. So she drove the point home about, one, the need to create an archive, but also the power that that archive will have in telling our stories, in passing this on to, you know, the newer generations that are going to come. So for me, that was, you know, something that justified why I'm doing this today, the importance of the work that I'm doing with Who's the Press in Rwanda.
What constitutes a publication in the performing arts? And personally, saying that I care about the book publication for me does not render the production publication useless.
I want to talk about reviews. I come from the newspaper and the blogging background. And I find like, I think all newspapers decided that they're in trouble. And a lot of them are cutting space for the arts.
And I've proved everything that I'm telling you now is true. I've spent all of my adult life making documentary evidence, because all family is a set of documentary makers shooting one scene and then arguing over it in the editing suite.
There is a bit of a conservative element sticking to the traditional amongst writers, amongst academic institutions. We've stuck to the pedagogy. We create, we teach, and we've not gotten down to the community that requires this information.
I think when we speak of professionalism that you asked of, it starts with our schools. Macario, why don't you audition people to come into your school?
It has been a meeting ground of minds, of like minds, and of young writers from various parts of Africa, as well as the African diaspora. And if these kind of meetings continue to take place, I believe African literature will finally become of age.
The conference has been run so well. I wouldn't even have any new recommendations for what else could be done at the conference. But I hope to see results. We've talked a lot about things that we can do in the industry. I want to see us next year when we come back to be talking about what we have done. You know, last year we talked about how we can convert books into film, how we can, you know, have more reviews out there. I want us to come next year and say, you know what, we actually have a bigger number of literary critics and reviewers. We have more books out there. The publishers who had just a few books have more products out on the market. I just hope that we really have results to show next year.
And it's very difficult for me to sort of venture out into what are the recommendations, because I feel like you've really got it right in terms of the numbers, so the people who get to attend, in terms of you know, the managing resources, in terms of organizing the conference around a certain theme, whereby we're all engaging in a certain in a conversation. There's pretty much one conversation going on with different perspectives, as opposed to very many conversations going on with too many perspectives, so you leave with nothing. I feel like I've actually left with a lot, which is quite different from a lot of other conferences that you attend, you know, across the continent or even outside of the continent around literary initiatives. So I think that, I mean, if I were to say, the only recommendation I might have is, could you do it every year as opposed to every 2 years? Because it's really important. And would you be willing to reconsider venue? Would you consider doing it in you know, Kigali, for example, and just taking the resources that you have here, the organizing capacity and all of that to these new spaces and engage with the audiences there?
Just want to wrap up and end by saying thank you so much to Goretti and Carol, because I'm so impressed, because I remember the first meeting we had, and now seeing how it has shaped up to be, and again, most especially for including the performing arts. I feel so
honored, I feel so enriched, and I feel so motivated being in the space and having the synergy from different artists and creative minds. Thank you so much.